Hello friends, welcome back to another video here on my channel. If you happen to be new here, hello, my name is Kim. I am an author as well as an illustrator, and here on my channel I love to create content about books, about writing projects, and just about living a cozy and intentional life. Happy October, friends. It is officially October. Spooky season is in full swing. I am feeling very nostalgic, very just magical and whimsical, and I'm here for all the autumnal fall vibes. Today, friends, I bring you another book recommendation video. I know I am burning your pockets with all these book recs, but you guys, I am someone who is always looking for the next spooky or just magical read in general. Needless to say, my TBR list is extremely long to the point that I'm probably going to be reading books up until my deathbed, but it's okay. We're going to stay optimistic here, and I am someone who loves to have options because I am a mood reader, I am a vibe reader, and I just like to keep my options around to see what book I want to read next. Now, if you've been here for a while, you know that I am a huge fan of the animated series Over the Garden Wall. If you have not seen Over the Garden Wall, I highly recommend for you to check it out. It is my utmost, most favorite animated series out there. It brings a sort of sense of nostalgia for my childhood that I'm always seeking for in my adult years, and Over the Garden Wall really checks those boxes for me. I watch it every year. It doesn't even have to be the fall season. I love to pop it in whenever I'm craving a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of magic, and it's one of my comfort shows. Now, if you've never seen Over the Garden Wall follows two brothers whose names are Greg and Wirt, and they sort of get lost in this forest that is called the Unknown, and they're trying to get home. And while they are trying to find their way home in this forest, they come across very strange creatures, very strange towns. Now, one could say that this show is about two brothers of different personalities who are trying to work together to get themselves home. But I personally believe that this show really has a multitude of deeper meanings, such as fighting your inner demons, following your dreams, letting go of those self-sabotaging thoughts. There is more than just the darkness that oftentimes the world can be. Believing in yourself and getting to tell your own story. I have fallen into so many rabbit holes about the many deeper meaning explorations of Over the Garden Wall, and the more that I watch the show, the more that I can see how much that is true. And even though it is a very whimsical, autumnal, and cozy for me animated show, I feel like the deeper meanings really call to me even now as an adult in my 30s, and I find that there's always such a beautiful lesson to be learned from just watching that show. So I highly recommend for you to see that show if you haven't already. It is such a beautifully animated, illustrated show that just makes me feel so magical. So back to the actual theme of this video. This video, I am suggesting 10 books that you can read if you are someone who loves the vibes of Over the Garden Wall. I recently made a TikTok, which, by the way, if you don't follow me on TikTok, please follow me on TikTok. I started a sort of bookish, artish lifestyle account on there. So if you like those vibes, then I will link my TikTok down below for you guys to follow me on there. But I recently shared a TikTok of 5 books that you can read if you like Over the Garden Wall, and it kind of sort of became very popular. I had a multitude of folks commenting on that video, recommending other books that folks should read if they also love Over the Garden Wall. So today I'm going to be sharing a few of the books that I shared on that video, and a couple of other books that other folks commented on that video, of books that you can read if you also love Over the Garden Wall. Now, the books that I have curated and that other folks recommended as well that I'm going to be talking about in this video are very much books that obviously give off Over the Garden Wall vibes, and that is whimsical, magical, woodland talking creatures, weird towns, being transported into this other odd dimension, maybe a sibling dynamic. The thing about Over the Garden Wall is that it is eerie, it is weird, but also very comforting and cozy, all mesh into an animated series. So the books that I'm going to be talking talking about also for me give off some of those vibes. This is going to be a very chatty video, friends, so grab yourself something cozy and warm to drink. I am drinking some coffee with some pumpkin spice creamer. It is very yummy. Grab yourself some snacks, a blanket, and let's talk books. Now, the first book that I'm going to be talking about was a book that I mentioned on that TikTok video that a lot of folks were very surprised even existed, as was I when I first found this book. I actually found this book in my local thrift store, and as soon as I seen who it was by, I was like, what? I didn't know this book existed. I was very, very excited and immediately added it to my cart, and that is The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories by the one and only Tim Burton. Once I read the synopsis, I immediately knew that I needed to get this book. So this book is a collection of short stories about children who one would say are outcasts, who are misunderstood, who are trying to navigate who they are in this world, which is very cruel and unloving. Of course, if you know Tim Burton, you know that his stories tend to be a little bit eerie, a little bit dark, but also you find those little gold nuggets of just hopefulness, of love, of finding yourself, and that is exactly what this is about. Following these children who are outcasts in this world. You guys know me, I love a good short story collection because you don't feel compelled, or at least I don't, to have to go through the entire book within a certain time frame. You can read it at your own pace. The next book I want to recommend was also a book that I did not know existed, but once I read the synopsis, I knew that this was something that was right up my alley. And I also found this book at my local thrift store. You know what? Thrift stores have some really great gems sometimes. I just love a good book treasure hunt at a thrift store. I found some of my favorite books at thrift stores. And that book is The Accidental Afterlife of Thomas Marsden by Emma Trevane. Look at that beautiful cover, you guys. So cute. I believe this is a middle grade book, and this follows our main protagonist, whose name is Thomas. And Thomas is a grave robber. That is how he makes his living. He goes on and digs up graves and steals whatever they were buried with, jewelry, watches, whatever, until one day Thomas is getting into a grave, and when he opens the casket, he realizes that the boy who is buried on that casket is himself, or looks like him, and thus leads him into this very magical, weird, and odd world full of fairy folk, death, and spiritualists. Now, this next book is very popular. I first read this book maybe like 2 years ago, and I completely fell in love with this book. And that is Shady Hollow by Junio Black, a murder mystery novel. This is very popular in the cozy genre, as it should, because it gives off all the cozy vibes. In this world, we are following our main protagonist, whose name is Vera Vixen. And Vera is a fox. This is a world of woodland creatures that talk. I love a good setting where the inhabitants of this world are woodland talking creatures. I'm just always a sucker for that theme. So Miss Vera, I believe, is a journalist, and she is investigating the local murder of, I think it was a toad, and I forgot his name, but a toad in this town of Shady Hollow got murdered, and Vera is trying to figure out who did it. You have a very cozy town, you have very cozy autumnal feels, you have a very loving and wonderful cast of just woodland creatures. I will say that this is more cozy, and in that aspect is how this relates also to Over the Garden Wall, even though Over the Garden Wall has a little bit of more eeriness to it. So if you're looking for eeriness, I don't feel like this really has eeriness, but it does give off a lot of cozy vibes. I also recently just picked up the next book in this installation, which is titled Cold Clay. I believe it's still following, is it still following Vera? Yes, it's still following Vera. So I just picked up the second book. I think there's 4 in this installation, and I'm very excited to read it. Since we're on the topic of talking woodland creatures, my next recommendation is Wildwood by Colin Malloy and Carson Ellis. This is a middle grade book. It is also the first installation in a series books. I think there's like 3 or 4 in this series. I have talked about this book several times here on my channel. I have mentioned how much I love this book. I've only read the first book in the installation. In this book, we are following 2 friends whose name are Prue and Curtis. And one day, Prue's little baby brother is kidnapped. Prue and Curtis take it upon themselves to go and try and locate where Prue's baby brother is, and that takes them to this forbidden forest, which, by the way, this is based in Portland, Oregon, which I absolutely love. So they go into this forbidden forest, and there they come across these woodland creatures and kings and queens and battles. They are transported into this world that they did not know existed beyond this forbidden forest. It is very magical, it is very endearing, it is cozy, it has all of the magical vibes. And also, I just found out that this series, or at least this first book, is getting turned into an animated movie. I am so excited because it is getting turned into an animated movie by the creators or the film house that also did Coraline, and I believe also Frankenweenie or Paranorman. I can't remember, but it is by that same film house, and they are turning this into an animated movie. I am just super excited. So you guys might as well just start reading the books, because I have a feeling that's going to be a very great animated movie. The next book I want to recommend is The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. In my digging of trying to read more books that gave off Over the Garden Wall, this was one of the books that was very highly recommended. In this book, we are following 12-year-old David, and David is mourning the loss of his mother. And to keep him going, he is reading lots and lots of books like one would do, until one day he comes across this book that transports him into this other world, a world that sort of reflects his own world, but in this world it is populated by monsters, by kings. This book takes the reader on a journey through the loss of innocence and into adulthood. I have not yet read the book, but I have read so many amazing reviews on this book, and I just can't wait to get into this one. The next book I want to recommend is a middle grade book, and that is The Clackety by Laura Seneff. Look at that cover. It is just very spooky, very eerie, very fall and autumnal. In this story, we are following our main protagonist, whose name is Evie, and Evie lives with her paranormal expert aunt, and they both live in one of America's most haunted towns. One day, Evie's aunt disappears. She goes missing, and Evie takes it upon herself to try and figure out what happened to her aunt. She tries to backtrack her aunt's footsteps, which lead her to this haunted slaughterhouse, which she was told by her aunt many times to not go into this slaughterhouse. But of course, she's trying to locate her aunt, so she has to go there. And there she meets this monster called the Clackety. I know, very eerie. A monster called the Clackety, like, ooh, it's already giving me the chills. And the Clackety will help Evie, but the Clackety wants Evie to do something for him. And thus, Evie has to go on a long journey full of ghosts, witches, and thieves. It is quite the adventure, this one. Now moving on to books that folks recommended on my TikTok video of books that you should also read if you like Over the Garden Wall. I'm only going to be sharing 4 of them, because if I was to do a lot more than that, there would just be way too many. The first one that someone suggested is titled A Psalm. I could never say this word. A Psalm? I'm pretty sure the P is silent. I'm just gonna say Psalm. A Psalm for the Wild Build by Becky Chambers. This is a fairly popular book, and I've actually seen this book around, but I've yet to read it. The synopsis says, Azen B08H831J18 moved to the more recent edition centuries before. Robots of Panga gained self-awareness, laid down their tools, wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again. They faded into myth and urban legend. Now the life of the teen monk who tells this story is appended by the arrival of a robot. There to honor the old promise of checking in, the robot cannot go back until the question of what do people need is answered. But the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They will need to ask it a lot. In this series, the author asks, in a world where people have what they want, just having more matter. This sounds so good, and I really love that someone suggested this video because, as I was mentioning, Over the Garden Wall has more deeper meanings outside of the outskirts of what you see. And so I love a good book that really goes deeper into exploring bigger themes, and this book here sounds like it is relatable in that matter. I love a book for the vibes and the coziness, but I also love a good book that really makes you self-reflect and think a little bit more about the message. The next book that someone else suggested is titled Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker. This is the first book in the Up and Under series, and as soon as I read the synopsis, you guys, I was like, yep, this is very much giving Over the Garden Wall vibes. The synopsis says, if you trust her, you'll never make it home. Avery is an exceptional child. Everything he does is precise, from the way he washes his face in the morning to the way he completes his homework, without complaint, without fuss, without prompt. Zib is also an exceptional child because all children are in their own way. But where everything Avery does and is can be measured, nothing Zib does can possibly be predicted, except for the fact that she can always be relied upon to be unpredictable. They live on the same street, they live in different worlds. On an unplanned detour from home to school one morning, Avery and Zib find themselves climbing over a stone wall into the Up and Under, an impossible land filled with mystery, adventure, and the strangest creatures. And they must find themselves in each other if they are to also find their way out and back to their own lives. Tell me that is not giving Over the Garden Wall, you guys. That is absolutely Over the Garden Wall for me. I feel like for this book, I definitely want a physical copy because it just sounds like something that is totally up my alley. I'm very excited for this one. Now, this next book recommendation, I oddly found it very relatable to Over the Garden Wall. It is a historical fiction, but in its own way. I do see the similarities between this book and Over the Garden Wall, and that book is The Whalebone Theater by Joanna Quinn. The synopsis says, one blustery night in 1928, a whale washes up on the shores of the English Channel. By law, it belongs to the king, but 12-year-old orphan Christabel Seagrave has other plans. She and the rest of the household, her sister Flossie, her brother Digby, long-awaited heir to Chilcombe Manor, Maudie Kitcat, kitchen maid Terrace, visiting artist, build a theater from the beast's skeletal ribcage. Within the Whalebone Theater, Christabel can escape her step-parents and brisk governess, and her imagination comes to life. As Christabel grows into a headstrong young woman, World War II rears its head. She and Digby become British secret agents on separate missions in Nazi-occupied France. A more dangerous kind of play acting, it turns out, and one that threatens to tear the family apart. Honestly, this story just had me at making a theater out of whalebones. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Over the Garden Wall. It is so oddly weird, but also satisfying. Even though it's weird, it makes sense. And I feel like the Whalebone Theater is exactly that. It sounds very weird and odd, but it makes sense. Now, moving on to the last book that someone suggested, and that is The House in Poplar Wood by K.E. Ormsby. This one does take place in Halloween, which, of course, it is very much in theme with what Over the Garden Wall is. The synopsis says, for as long as the Vickery twins can remember, they've only ever been able to leave the house together once a year, on Halloween. The rest of the year, Lee and his mother serve memory, while Felix and his father assist death. This is the agreement. But one Halloween, Gretchen Whipple smashes her way into their lives. Her bargain is simple. If the twins help her solve the murder of local girl Essie Hastings, she'll help them break the agreement. The more the three investigate, however, the more they realize that something's gone terribly wrong in their own. Death is on the loose, and if history repeats itself, Essie might not be the last murder in Poplar Wood. Simultaneously heartwarming and delightfully spooky, The House in Poplar Wood is a story about a boy's desire to be free, a girl's desire to make a difference, and a family's desire to be together again. I love these themes. I absolutely love these themes, and that is why I love Over the Garden Wall, because there are so many themes that you can explore within Over the Garden Wall that is so relatable to us humans. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your background. It is still very much relatable to the human experience in general. So friends, those are the 10 books that I would recommend if you are someone who loves Over the Garden Wall, or even if you haven't seen Over the Garden Wall but you love eerie, weird cozy, spooky, oddly satisfying, deeper meaning type of stories, then maybe give these books a try. But I still highly recommend that if you have access to it, or if you can, to watch Over the Garden Wall this spooky season. And honestly, just watch more animated shows in general, or animated movies in general. I love the nostalgia that animated series or movies bring to us adults, and how it allows us to be playful and feel magical and get lost in the magic in what an animated story or cartoon or whatever have you does. If you have any other book recommendations that feel like Over the Garden Wall, please comment those down below. I would love to continue adding them to my endless TBR. Also, let me know down below if you have a cozy animated series or movie. What is your favorite cozy, comforting animated movie, series, or show? Comment that down below. I would love to know. I would love to check it out. Again, follow me on TikTok. I don't post as often, but I am trying to post a little bit more and grow my TikTok page. Also, please like, comment, engage with this video. It really makes me creating these videos more accessible, and it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much, friends, for spending some time with me. I hope that you found some good treasures in this video. Remember, friends, that you can create the life that you want because you so deserve it. I will be seeing you in a video very, very soon. Take care and bye for now.